Welcome to another Selah with Christ the Rock. Last week that you've seen me, we've started out in the book of Daniel, which we see how much courage he demonstrates and the courage that he teaches us to have. And so this month, we're going to continue in this book of Daniel. And this time, we're going to see how the Hebrew boys trusted God. And so now we start in chapter 3 of Daniel. And we learned previously that Daniel earned his high position with the king because he was the only one that was able to interpret the king's dreams with the help of the Lord. And so now we're in the scripture where King Nebuchadnezzar had quickly forgotten what God has done for him, and he builds this golden statue, this golden status that he wants the people to bow down to and worship. And so let us read here in verse 8 of chapter 3 in Daniel. It says, "At this time, astrologers came forward and denounced the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, 'May the king live forever. Your Majesty has issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, the pipe, and the harp, and all kinds of music must fall down and worship the king, worship the image of God of gold. And that whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into the blazing furnace. But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, your majesty. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up.'" So let's stop there. So we see in the scripture that the people of Babylon clearly don't like Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. They don't like these three Hebrew boys because they were placed in a high position, and now they're watching the every move, and they see that they're not worshiping this golden statue. So if you notice, it's clear that when you live for God, that your faith will be challenged. So let's continue in verse 13. It says, "Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king. And Nebuchadnezzar said to them, 'Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold that I have set up? Now, when you hear the sound of the horn and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image that I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will you be able to rescue from you?'" And so here in the scripture, the king had respect for these men because he remembers that that Daniel was able to interpret his dreams, and so he put them in this high place. But the king also wanted to be respected. So even though he liked these guys, he also wanted to be respected and that they would be able to worship his God. But this is how the Hebrew boys respond. In verse 16, it says that the Hebrew boys replied to him, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." Now, all I can think is, wow. The way that they responded to the king is the way that I see Jesus respond, the same way we see Jesus respond to Pilate when he was faced to be crucified. They trusted God so much to deliver them from the fiery furnace. And not only did they trust him, but even if God doesn't deliver them, they will not. There's no chance ever that they will ever serve the king's gods and the king's statue that he has built. And in the wilderness, we see Jesus faced with challenges. And he too was persecuted by jealous leaders who wanted to harm him. And most people would try to plead and defend themselves, but Daniel and his friends did not defend themselves in the same way that Jesus did not defend himself before Pilate. With full confidence, the Hebrew boys knew that God would deliver them. So when we are faced with the testing of our faith, how do you respond? I encourage you to pray that God will give you the courage to live in a way that glorifies Him. And when we are faced with persecution, that He will give us all that we need to endure it. All right, so now let's flip over to Psalm 23 and let's read it together. It says, The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss the video. See you next time.